Hey guys, it's JHP here, and welcome to my ETS review for week 6 of season 5. So this is going to be a new thing we're going to start doing every Monday here on the channel. I also could move my face, but fuck it. And we're going to be looking at the list from the ETS, the top 8, talk about what I like about them, what I didn't like about them, kind of not hold back. Please note, I did not play in this week's ETS. We will not be talking about my choices, nor my metagame breakdown, because I don't have all the data I need, and I also didn't have any experience with it. We're going to start with an Earthly's Plate deck. Now, an Earthly is someone who I trust very much playing this deck. So, the notable things in his list is he's on 3 Plate, he's on, gosh, I'm blind, 1 Oathbook, and 3 Scepters. But he's also on what I believe is 28 power, yes, which is more than normal. The things that he cut, though, aren't actually that notable. He actually just cut maybe like his Pyro Knights or his 2 Protect, so he made it more of a mid-range build that was better in the mid-range decks. Edward Mine is good to get to. You're trying to get to 28 power without playing Seeks, so he's on 3 plates, which are important, plus the 2 Emerald Monuments. Besides that, Oathbook is very good with cards like Champion of Glory, and any other, basically anytime you're attacking, having that Oathbook in play just makes it a little bit harder for those mid-range decks to come back against you. I think this list is super solid, and I think this is one of the better ways to build this deck, especially for tournaments. I like the fact that he also plays no copies of Sword of Ikaria in his main deck, and he also places 4 copies of Vanquish. A lot of us will only play 3 Vanquish, or I think playing 4 is just the correct call. It's just I don't really have anything I want to criticize. He has seals, he has banners, he has seats, he has monuments. His power base is correct. The one Oathbook, I'd almost want more, but finding room for it I don't think is really possible. I think it's just a super solid. I think 24 units is enough as well. So let's move on from Earthly's list. I think his list is probably one of the more solid ones. Now, if I want to talk about solid list, this is a list I do not like. This is Jade Phoenix's FTJ deck. So, I don't think he really took inspiration from me, who was one of the more innovators for playing the FTJ control deck, at least with set 2, because this feels more of I wanted to play green cards with my Praxis cards. So, one thing to note is he's on 31 power sources, and no banners, so he's only on 12 dual lands. He also is only playing 3 Desert Marshals. He's at 3 Ambragots. He's actually on 34 sources. I missed those. 2 Diagos, 2 Parliaments, no Rises, no Ikaria. He's at 2 Carnosaurs, only 3 Hearts, 2 Shadowglass, but the 4 Obliterate is where I'm turned off. I don't think this deck needs any cards like Obliterate. Basically, my experience with Dawnwalker in this deck as well is, although you have some good ways to trigger it, I don't think it's actually worth a slot. Especially when you're not playing cards like Reinarch, who helps trigger it plus your power gets better. I personally don't think Dawnwalker belongs in this deck, and if you want to play Dawnwalker with Heart of the Vault, I think you should either play Primal, because cards like Cerso and False Prince, or you just play Praxis. Praxis is very proven to be basically the 0-0 deck in this format, regardless of how I feel about the deck. In tournaments, it appears to be absurdly good. So, that's where I would rather Dawnwalker. And without playing like killer spells, Dawnwalker just feels a little bit weaker than the rest of the cards in this deck. I personally prefer more of a Cambrano style, where you're actually playing all 3 colors to a relatively high amount. Overplaying kind of a grab bag of them. I don't really think I would want to be playing like just random Iron Thorns in this. Seraph is very good, but I think if you want to play just Praxis plus a splash, I think I'd rather be splashing for Cerso and maybe Permafrost and just other good primal cards than actually playing this version. This version feels like it's just trying to do a couple of things wrongly, I guess. I also am not huge on the power base. I think it needs more banners. You're trying to cast triple influence cards plus you're splashing a color. I also think decks like this don't want to leave home without 4 Desert Marshals. Basically, if you're in Combray, you want 4 Desert Marshals. Almost always. The card is very good. and into a field where there's a lot of things to silence, like in a mid-range heavy field, which this is. Card's just above average. I would want the fourth in my main deck for sure. One thing to note, guys, is I'm not even looking at sideboards because I want to help you guys play on ladder a lot more too. Praxis Horn from Grapefruit. So this list was a horn-inspired list. I'm not in love with it. Now, one thing to note is I'm biased. I don't specifically like Praxis Horn. I don't like Horn. I think the Horn decks are that good, especially since there's not a lot of aggro in the ETS. So, the things to note, what triggers Horn is 4 Cold Aspirant, 4 Dawnwalker, 2 Obliterates, 2 Shatterglass, and Flamestrokers and Amber Monuments. I don't know if that's enough. It probably is. The one thing to note though is Cold Aspirant has always felt really cute to me in this deck, but that's it. I'm also just... I don't know why you'd play this over regular Praxis with Obelisk. You could even play Flamestoker in the an Obelisk version if you feel like it. Like, I don't feel like you need to turn your deck into playing some weaker cards like Cold Aspirant and Shepherd's Horn in exchange for giving up some of your more powerful cards. This deck doesn't play Mystic Ascent, it doesn't play Carnosaur, just as a couple of really good cards I'm naming here. Maybe one more Obliterate as I'm losing my voice and I need a drink. I just feel like I'd rather cut the Horn package. Like, I get it, it helps you versus aggro, but aggro doesn't exist in the ETS right now, practically. One thing to note, 33 power sources, which seems... it's fine, especially with 4 monuments. But I just feel like I want to cut these Horns, cut these Cold Aspirants, probably cut some number of Flamestroker, and just board in a regular Praxis. I just don't think the Horn package is worth your time. And I think if you are going to play a Horn deck, you should play Elysian. Where you can play False Prince and Cerso and Adaptive Predator, for example. Like, there's some really good Overwhelm cards in other colors. So let's look at a list that I know, because I built it. This is ECV's FTJ. For those of you who haven't noticed, this is my list from the last week's ETS. That's all I really have to say. I've changed this list slightly. I've cut 2 Iron Thorns for a Reality Warden and a Mystic Ascent. That's the only changes I've made. I think this deck is super good. I really do. I think it's very good in a lot of other Praxis decks and things like that. I think this is how I'd want to build FTJ. I don't think just splashing is a good idea. I think just being a bit greedy, playing your hearts, playing your harsh rules, etc. I think that's a very good way to play this deck. So it has the 4 Desert Marshals. It has enough early interaction to deal with aggro, but it has enough late game to deal with other controlling and mid-range decks. I plays the harsh rule because this deck spends a little bit more time than others, I guess, gearing up, playing cards like Find the Way. So it has to catch up, but once it catches up, it turns the corner lightning fast. And I think this is the way I would want to build this deck. It's just, well, it's going high, but it has enough low end, and it is a full 3-color deck. And I think that's fine. There's so much fixing in time that you can afford to play decks like this. I wouldn't change anything in this list except for playing a Reality Warden and a Mystic Ascendant main over a Martial Arctic, but that's also because I've tested this deck like no other. His sideboard is also very similar to mine. Let's look at Praxis. Welcome to our Overruler, Praxis. Things to note about this list is there's only 1 Amber Monument and 26 power. There's a lot of power sources. There's 34. 4 Obliterates, 2 Flame Bosses, more burn than a lot of list plays. It also plays the 2 Friendly, which some lists don't. I like it though. Save it to the initiation. 3 Displacers is okay. 2 Carnosaurs, no Mystics, I think is probably fine. One thing to note though is I'm not in love with Displacer. I kind of wish I think I always want some number of Diago in Praxis. I think Diago's really impressed me the more I play it. So I would definitely consider playing more Diago in this. Maybe even cutting a Displacer for a Diago is fine. I also kind of wish I'd just play like 3 Obliterate and like a Mystic Ascendant maybe. Mystic is really good, and it's one of the best ways to win the mirror match, and you have to expect a lot of those. So I feel like I would want that answer. You could also just cut all the Displacers and play like a Diago into Mystic Ascendant, especially if you expect the metagame to be slow, because you play so many power sources that you're expected to get to your 6 power. So I think I would make that change. Displacer's okay, and it's good if you have a tempo start. That's the only time it's really good. Like, otherwise, Time Lock is only as good as you can make it. And I don't think this is the best Time Lock deck I've ever seen. But I think it's Praxis, and I think it's a very solid list, of course. I would want to fit the 4th Monument in this deck, though. Because Monument is super good. Let's look at Kamado's Armory deck. This is a very, interesting list. So it has 4 Macto, 3 Ikaria, no Daisho, no Smuggler's Dash, no Reforge, 4 Flails. I don't like this deck. I really don't. But maybe I'm wrong. Because this deck has done well in the last 2 weeks. Different versions of this deck. Kamado really knows what he's doing with Armory. Kamado is one of the best Armory players, and I respect him. And I respect his opinions, and because of that, I think I need to take this deck with a grain of salt. The one thing to note, though, and this is my biggest thing, is it only plays 29 power sources when it wants 3 Ikaria. That's not right. I think this deck needs to trim a little bit in order to fit up to 31 sources. If you're trying to cast Ikaria, especially 3 of them, you can't be playing 29 sources. The math doesn't work out. You're going to get stuck up 5 a fair bit. One thing to note is this list does not play any Artisan, which Armored players seem to be moving away from, in order to play cards like Macto and Ikaria. And I think that's a solid plan. I'm a fan of doing that at this point. Because you're against a lot of other mid-range decks, and 4 Maiden I think is a must. One of the best ways to approach this deck, though, is just kill all the things with 4 Vanquish, 4 Slay in your main, and then have just top end so you can fly over the Heart of the Vaults of the world, and just gotta make sure you kill your Titans. I think this list is really solid, especially for a tournament setting. Good job to Kamado. I think showing up with an Armory list that is very different deserves some props. Let's look at Big Cambrai. This looks pretty stock, except it plays 4 Diploseal, which isn't stock. No Protects, 3 Vanquish main, 2 Funways, so 31 sources. It's a very typical Big Cambrai list. I know he boarded into like cards like Vodic in the board. The question is Big Cambrai better than Vodo combo? And I think it is right now in tournament settings. I just think this list is really solid. The 4 Diplomatic Seal, we could argue for hours. I think it's fine, but because you're playing Vodo combo in your board, I would have cut them. But I'm trying not to look at the board too much. But I just know that's something like worth mentioning. I don't think you ever play Diplomatic Seal where you're trying to get the triple influence. I think that's too difficult. Especially when you're actually for casting, not like a champion. Says that I wouldn't really change anything. I like the fact that it doesn't play any copies of Spirit Guide. I think Spirit Guide's very good in this deck. At least not compared to Healer. I know Spirit Guide takes over games by itself sometimes. One thing to note is he played 4 Harsh Rules and no Obelisk. I personally prefer playing this deck without Harsh Rule right now. And just playing Obelisk. It allows you to just beat up the other mid-range decks. If one person has Obelisk, the other person doesn't, the guy with it tends to win. Because your creatures get so much value from it. Obelisk is one of the best cards of the game. So I said I like this list a fair bit. But I'd probably cut the Harsh Rules on the Seals and play Obelisk and just other sigils. Let's look at the thing that won the last ETS for the 3rd week in a row. Praxis. This list is interesting. 2 Diplomatic Seals is a bit iffy to me when you're trying to cast Heart of the Vault, as I just mentioned. Besides that, this list doesn't play any Diago. It doesn't play any Friendly Wisp. Those are 2 things to keep in mind. 33 power sources with 4 monuments is fine. I like the Mystic Ascendant inclusion. It might be just better than Carnosaur. I just don't love Purify. I think there might be better options than Purify in this deck. Z Initiation I think is better. I think Diago is a better card. I think a Flame Blast might be better. Purify is the only card in this list I just don't really like. I just don't really think Purify has Okay, I'm not gonna get hiccups for doing this. I need to stay professional. Um, I don't think Purify really is that good of a card, especially in your main deck. Like, yes, there are gonna be times where it's good, but this deck still struggles with Aegis threats, and what this deck has issues with is threats that you can easily kill with Killer. Like, it has issues with Bart Holo, for example, which fuck that card. So I think I would like to cut the Purifies for Z initiations and probably like a Diago, and then like you can play one Purify, it's fine, or like probably maybe a third initiation, maybe a second Diago, maybe a Flame Blast, something like that. Besides that, I think this list is really solid. This one was built to beat other mid-range decks. It played 4 Obelisks plus all the top end. I think this deck probably gets Raffle Stomped by ladder. And when I say that, there's a lot of aggro decks on ladder. This is more of a tournament deck. And I think I would prefer to be a little bit lower to the ground on ladder. But in tournaments, I really like the idea behind this of just, well, everyone's going to be slow, let's just go slower and go bigger. And normally the person who goes bigger in a mid-range mirror wins the game. So I think this list is solid. I want to congratulate Swan once again on his victory in this week's ETS. And we're going to end this off here. So, what do I think will be good next week? I think a deck with Cerso and Crystallize are going to be great. Why? Because every deck we looked at in this top 8, besides Unearthly, is slow as hell. And Cerso is very good into other mid-range decks, because Cerso doesn't care. So I'd probably play, like, Elysian Killers. Seems like a solid choice, and I'm definitely going to test it myself. So until next time, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this ETS recap video. I'll be doing these every Monday, and I'll see you guys next time.